Very welcome to this presentation, everybody. This presentation is about assistive technologies for an inclusive classroom. My colleagues, Sara, Merino, Rocío, Barbosa, Trujillo, and I am Leticia Estudillo. For this presentation, the introduction regards UQROO that states that the inclusion of the ICT resources in the teaching strategies constitutes a variable that favors the growth of the learning efficiency, having a positive impact on the student, but also on the teacher's activities. Through the last years, establishing inclusive school is widely regarded as desirable for equality and human rights around the globe, as it has educational, social, and economic benefits. The different types of disabilities that we already know are a disability, disorder, or impairment. That is something that makes you able to do things that most people can do. Some of these types of disabilities are autism, emotional disturbance, hearing impairment, intellectual disability, orthopedic impairment, specific learning disability, speech or language impairment, visual impairment, and other health impairments, as you can see here.
Okay, based on those different classification of disabilities, we have here another one that is called high incident disabilities or low incident disabilities. These high incident disabilities are learning disabilities, attention-related disabilities, mild intellectual disabilities, speech and language impairment, or even autism. And that represent the 80% of the disabilities that we can find in our students. The low incident disabilities are those like hearing impairment, visual impairment, and orthopedic impairment are not really common, not just like periodical. The first one are called invisible disabilities because we cannot really see them very well. To support this, we have something called Universal Design Learning, or UDL, that this idea started in the construction, in the buildings, no? That the builders realized that the changes help students or help everyone, no? Like an automatic door that was, to to help builders, to buildings, normal buildings, but everyone um, is supported to these ramps, automatic doors, and many other things that architectures provide buildings. What are the benefits of the UDL in the classroom? The main idea of UDL is that teachers should use many different tools. It's like cooking one dish that whole family likes. UDL is also good when must treat all students the same way. UDL can help students with disabilities feel included. And what are the benefits of differentiated instruction, or DI? DI targets the specific learning. Differentiated instruction is like cooking each person their favorite dish, and usually this is true when the learners has a serious disability, learners who are not supported. The purpose of this research, this study is we have three. That is one, identify what AT, assistive technology, are used by the in-service English language teacher to support SEND students, how ELT use these tools, and what changes of using them they can identify in the classroom.
Okay, so talking about the methodology, for this study, it would use a mixed method approach. We also use an online questionnaire, and there were 10 participants who were volunteers, and those practitioners are, or by the time of doing the study, they were working with some students during this the second year of pandemic, and when they were doing their practicum, they use assistive technology in their practices. Now, what are the findings of this study? Most of the assistive technology that they use were screen reader, Sesame Street, Stop, Breathe, and Think, Dyslexia Tool, Muse-O-Matic, Vocabulary Spelling City, and eBooks. As we can see in this graph, there is some percentage in which that reveals the time or the use they work with the students. Now, how these practitioners, how these volunteers use all of these assistive technology, all of these tools. In the first place, we've got screen reader. According to them, according to our participants, they mentioned that this assistive technology, it enables students that present severe visual impairment. So while they were not able to use a computer, a mobile phone, this tool, it was a great resource for them. So they could, it enabled them to use it. And then we've got Sesame Street, and this is a mobile app, which is called Ábrete Sésamo. And the beauty thing of this tool, it is that, as it is mentioned here, a hands-free app, which is complete, which offers a complete control over the device just through movements. Okay, and the the advantage of this app is that it can be operated by anyone without touching the screen on their own. Okay. Another tool is the dyslexia tool, which helps the students with dyslexia processing language, recognizing words, and those students who present spell difficulties. One tool that it was of great help to practitioners, and it's called Stop, Read, and Think. This app helps the students that present anxiety and stress disorder. So, as said by practitioners, they mentioned that this app helps them with students because it encourages users, or in this case, students, to think about how they're feeling, okay, to help them meditate and reduce their stress disorders. One last resource that they used, it was Voice Dream Reader, and they use this tool for students with reading disabilities. And this specific tool allowed students to highlight text, which then it will be read. Now, according to practitioners' answers, the challenges that they observe when using assistive technology, it was that they highlighted in the first place that there are a lot of benefits while using assistive technology. Why? Because it enables students to perform tasks or activities that they, in other way, they wouldn't be able to accomplish. A second answer, it was that students that present any disability, they can be independent, okay, while performing any activity of daily life. They also mentioned that assistive technology provides students with tools to realize about their potential. Okay, that is to say, they are not unable, as mentioned before, to perform certain activities. Um, another result, another finding, it was that unfortunately there is a lack of suitable training by teachers and other professionals. That is to say, the school community. They they aren't aware of the importance of working and using assistive technology with students, okay? Or professionals that work with children with multiple disabilities, they are not aware of these resources, these tools that assistive technology can offer. It is also important to highlight that teachers that use assistive technology, they they train isolated academic skills. They don't put all together to have better results. So this is another very important point in which we need to focus a little bit more. And unfortunately, since practitioners are working or were working in public schools, they mentioned that one big disadvantage, it was that they didn't have enough equipment or devices to work with assistive technology. So in that way, they couldn't make like classrooms more inclusive. Okay, that is to say, maybe they couldn't practice one activity, but they could only perform it by using their devices. And unfortunately, since there were no devices, there was no internet in some public schools. Finally, the conclusions of this study, it was that ELT practitioners, they did find useful assistive technology tools to have a universal design learning. However, as it was mentioned in previous slides, the lack of devices and connection, it is a barrier to improve the conditions of making classrooms more inclusive. According to the practitioners' answers, it is evident that there is a need to train teachers and also practitioners on how to use all of these assistive technology tools to have better results, to have effective inclusive classrooms, and in consequence, a universal design learning. And another conclusion that we have is that as long as the use of assistive technology is omitted in classroom, students will remain excluded. And of course, they are excluded even in this pandemic situation that we are through. Okay, so thank you so much for listening to us.